Voy a empezar en castellano. Primero de todo, muchas gracias a todos vosotros por estar aquí. Let's start switching to English, because all of them are from foreign people. And first of all, thank you to stay here, because here we have management of huge companies and amazing companies in the tech world, and in the RegTech sector, and in the financial sector as well. And as we are in the lunchtime, let's do it like we're doing or having a coffee. No? I have a paper, I have some questions, but I will do it interactive. Please, we can talk about whatever you want. I'm going to say some topics that we're going to put focus on Barcelona. Why Barcelona? And as well, we're going to touch some point on the COVID, no? How are this, let's say, economic crisis is affecting the businesses or not? And let's start. So I will say that I'm going to start with Antoine and David, because the difference is that Veriff, it's a B2B company, and they are a B2C company. So let's differentiate some questions. And I will ask how COVID is accelerating or not your growth rhythm, no? Because you are 100% digital. And I will say that in these times, unfortunately, it's going properly in your company. So if you want, Antoine?
Yeah, sure.
Where to start?
So I mean, at Revolut, and to be fully honest, I mean, it was a bit of a hit, the COVID. So I think, I mean, Revolut was originally very much focused on travel. You know, we have a great FX product and so on. So of course, with people traveling less, it was a bit of a hit. But we took that as an opportunity for us to expand and become a lot more of developing our day-to-day services, you know. And I think during the whole COVID period, we've been able to diversify quite a lot our portfolio of product. We've been able to launch junior, open banking. We've been able to expand on the crypto space. We've actually launched in the US and so on. So I think what started being a bit of a hurdle, I think we overcame it, and I think we're exiting this period even stronger, you know. And you know, we have this vision at Revolut of becoming the financial super app, where we provide to our customers all the services you want from a financial perspective. And I think the COVID has really helped us to deliver on that vision, and we're continuing. We've just released as well Stays, you know, which is a product where you can book hotels and get cash back from those bookings. So we've expanded exponentially the number of products to really become this day-to-day service versus what could have been the perception of being the travel-first kind of app. So I think in that sense, COVID has helped us quite a bit.
That's cool. And David, I assuming that coming from the BNPL, no, buy now, pay later solutions, the e-commerce is growing in a steady path every year. So it's the same, no? You are getting new countries. If you can explain it.
Yeah, a little bit. I think in our case, so as we kind of offer flexible payment methods to merchants, even merchants with physical stores. So I think what happened was that, because this is a kind of a slow change technology shift, which was taking the merchants, especially the retail merchants, to kind of a new reality. And for these guys, the physical store has been very important because that's where they create the brand awareness and they kind of engage with the end users. So what happened with COVID is that the transformation of the ratio of online purchases went from 20 to 45% in one go. So I think the whole retail industry saw a huge shift, and they weren't really prepared for it, because all of a sudden they started to see that a big part of the volume, everything was online. So they had to restructure internally and start to think of how do we engage with end users when physical stores are closed. So I think that mostly we're not looking too much on how it affects us, but how it affects, I think, the whole retail. It's a mega shift in terms of how they do business, and that's for us is an opportunity, as we're offering payment methods that goes well in this transition. No?
Cool, cool, really cool. And Duncan, let's talk about the B2B business, no? I will say that Duncan for Veriff, at the end, what they are offering are QYC and QYB processes. So that's onboarding all the digital process of getting a client. And how have the COVID changed your clients? Because many banks didn't have these processes prepared, or other companies. So I think that it could be a good opportunity for you as well, no?
Yeah, look, we saw what David is saying as well. We saw within the first, or within basically the first year of COVID, we saw like about a 9x increase in the number of customers that we had fintech specific. I mean, fintech is quite a big category for us, but you know, a 9x increase, it's a lot of the previous year's growth all in 1 year. And it just forced a lot of businesses online, so they had to think about how they were going to onboard customers that, or just not onboard them at all, which really wasn't a business for, or really isn't a good idea for your business. So any companies like Revolut or N26 or traditional banks like CaixaBank, I mean, if you want to be able to accept customers, the old way was to just have people come into the store. And you check their ID and you have a look at this and then they go out. But all of that process is changing. And not only for banks, but also for things like notaries. If you want to, I don't know, buy a property, but the property office is closed, or an embassy, like if you're going to prove who you are, we needed a new way to do this. And Veriff had been offering this solution for quite a while, and COVID just really accelerated this trend. So we had massive growth, moving a whole bunch of these different services online very quickly. Businesses were just scrambling to try and figure out how they could continue their old processes, continue to accept customers. And well, we were in the right place at the right time, you could say.
Exactly. So I'm going to ask something hottest, let's say this. In this transition, in the, let's say this digital transformation that the marketing is having, how the European regulation is helping you or not, that it's, I will say that it's an important topic to touch, no? Because there is a sentence that, well, an idiom I like to say is always, no? America and Asia regulates, and Europe hyper-regulates. And it affects a lot to the different businesses. And you have to touch each country from a different way than you are touching in Spain, for example. So if you would like to touch something about how it's benefiting you or not, if you want, Duncan, you have been the last, if you want to take place.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the question, what do I think about regulation? As a private citizen, I think regulation is incredibly important. I think with GDPR and privacy regulation, this is something that's incredibly necessary. Sometimes I think we can try to regulate something that is legitimately a huge problem, but the solutions that we come up with as a society sometimes have been lacking. I think the cookie law is a difficult one to explain how this has been useful or how many people are actually protecting their information by clicking this accept all button every time you go to a website. So I think there really is a need for private companies to engage with governments so that we can create regulations that make sense so that we can protect people's privacy. I mean, I'm in the identity business, so we're thinking about this a lot. If we're processing a lot of people's information, how should we be protecting that information as well? If they're trusting us with this information, this is incredibly important stuff. I mean, we see some companies, like children's gaming companies and communities, where these companies are proactively trying to figure out how they should be policing this and making sure that children are not exposed to things. And they're getting ahead of the regulation. Like the metaverse, again, is going to be one of these places where privacy and identity is at risk. What do we do about this? How do we do this? I think it shouldn't be for somebody like me to decide, or any of us to decide, or any of these massive tech giants to decide. This is for society to decide, and we're here to build the tools to help this. I mean, one of the phrases we use at Veriff is that we're building the infrastructure for trust online, right? The word infrastructure is very carefully chosen, right? Because it's not that we get to decide this. We're building the tools for government. When government decides to regulate privacy and identity, that we can help them with the tools to make this possible. Because right now it's easy to say, well, we're going to regulate this, but if it's impossible, well, look at what happens. I mean, the cookie law or GDPR in the beginning was quite difficult for people. So I think it's necessary, but I think it needs to be a bit of a collaboration. It can't just be like one person deciding this, neither on the private side or on the public side.
Thank you. David, for example, if you want to say.
No, well, in our case, I think that the regulations that was set for maybe in the banking industry, I think it made sense to make it transparent for the end users. So a big part of this is really to protect the consumers, which is, I think, the regulators should keep doing. But you have to watch out so that you don't kind of expand the regulations into areas that have less importance for the consumer. So if they are smaller, like for instance in the case of limiting the APRs for loans and so forth, those were really constructed at a time where the loans were 20,000 to 30,000 euros. It was a mortgage and so forth. It doesn't make sense to regulate something that people buy for 60 euros. But you have to be kind of transparent, and so I think the regulators really are good for people, but you have to watch out in this transition so you don't kind of squeeze the beyond what's necessary, you know.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I would second what was just said. I mean, I think at the end of the day, what matters is to protect the end customer, you know, and I think we are fully aligned with that. I think at Revolut we are a global product, so we are working with very different regulations depending on the country and so on, and we adapt, you know. I mean, ultimately our goal is to offer banking services in all the different locations where we are. But we are adapting. So that's one side of the regulation, which is more the banking regulation. And then, as we said as well, there's this whole privacy, whether it's a regulation from GDPR or whether it's more the way Apple and Facebook and so on are working as well, which is impacting us, you know, as much. You know, I mean, we, as fintech, you know, you have fin and you have tech, and we get regulation on both sides. You know, we get regulation on the financial side and we get regulation on the technical side. You know, on the tech side. So we're playing around with those two items, you know, and trying to make the best of it, and ultimately just making sure at the end of the day we serve our customers in the best way. You know, that's what matters.
I like a lot that because all of you have touched one point: customer centricity. All of you have just summarized everything in one word. That's really important, and I think that corporates have had this in mind. No? That this is a tendency that we have to follow. Saying this, and I think that the most important topic for today will be why Barcelona, why there are some companies like SeQura that are based in Barcelona, or other ones like Revolut or Veriff, that they have strategic hubs in Barcelona. No? Always we say, no, it's because of the weather, and we have just talked about it. Well, it could be one reason, but I'm more than sure that you have other reasons in your back. No? So I will split it in between David and after you, because you have hubs, and David has a company here, the headquarters. So David, why you decided to open SeQura in Barcelona? No?
Yeah, well, this is my second, a little bit bigger venture in Barcelona. So I started another company called Telemedicine Clinic, where we had to kind of recruit doctors. And docs are very hard to recruit because they're in hierarchical systems in hospitals. We need to recruit a lot. Today that company has more than 600 doctors. And what we realized was that we have to change something, that people can have kind of a different life perspective. So what we did is, like in that case, doctors were used to sit in the center of hospitals with no windows, because the machines and the X-ray machines, you know, needed to, way back, need to be protected, but they don't need that anymore. So then we kind of took the 22nd floor in Torre Mapfre and made it there with a full view, and to kind of bring the radiologist out of the cave and up to, and then to come down here to Barcelona. So from that point, I think at least I've been involved in recruiting more than 250 people moving here. So I would say that in a general context, I humbly think there are few destinations that are more attractive if you look on the global view. Because for high-income people with back-end taxes, we are very competitive compared to to other markets. I think there is Barcelona has the offer of lifestyle is probably better than we think. And also the flights, everybody wants to come here and then you can go everywhere with a direct flight. And so all in all, I really think we are fortunate, and it's one of the most easiest spots to recruit international talent, I think, in general.
Thank you, David. And Antoine and Duncan?
Yeah, I mean, so it's a bit different, as you said. I mean, for us, so at Revolut, we've adopted full remote work, and that means that from now on, we are basically hiring globally for any position, you know. So that's a bit the idea that we have, which means that we're not just opening in Spain for the Spanish market, or we're just not. This is not the way we are currently working, and with that, we're now almost 100 people in Spain, you know, and with a big part of it in Barcelona, and they are working. A lot of them are working actually with a global scope, you know. So it's just that they just happen to be here, or they just wanted to be here, you know, for whatever reason, you know. And that's a bit the policy that we have at Revolut, you know. Whatever. I mean, this is your life, you know, that you want to do, and yeah, true, there are some reasons, like the Beckham law you mentioned, but I mean, I've been here now more than 9 years, you know, so I've been here for some time, and yeah, I'm just happy to be here, and I'm managing all growth globally for Revolut from Barcelona, and I think it's been very successful in that sense.
Yeah, and we just opened here. So we opened here about a month ago, and the kind of selection process we went through, we had about 20 different cities, I think it was, on the list initially. So we were checking all over Europe, but we needed a place that was close enough because we have our key development office is in Tallinn in Estonia. And so we were looking for somewhere that was in Europe. Like, so the US was kind of off the table because of just the communication, the time zones would be too complicated. So of those 20 different cities, we started off with about 25 different factors, and it sounds very complicated, but really it was all to answer. All of these different factors were just about triangulating to this one answer of like, where can we hire a team the fastest, right? And that kind of boiled down to 4 major factors. And those 4 major factors were basically desirability, like can we relocate people? So I don't know, let's say we have a fabulous machine learning engineer in New York. Can we actually convince that person to move to this city? So if we chose, I don't know, Vilnius in Lithuania, it's a bit of a tougher sell. Most people have been on vacation to Barcelona, and they probably have good memories about it, right? And so this was one of the reasons. Like desirability was definitely one of the factors, but there was a couple of others that were equally as important and could easily have shifted the balance. One of them was talent availability, which was arguably the most important. And so we were checking things like checking on LinkedIn how many engineers there were that were looking for work or open to new possibilities, those kind of things. Another one was employment conditions, because in some places you end up paying a lot for every employee. And yeah, talent availability, employment conditions, salary scale as well. So there's a couple of other places in Europe, like London, Berlin, where there is high talent density, but the price is quite high. So we were looking at these kind of 4 different factors, and Barcelona, there was kind of a short list of about 4 different places, and then Barcelona eventually won it out, and I think it kind of won it out on the desirability. We thought that we would be able to relocate people from other places. Calling an engineer in Berlin in November or end of December seemed like it was a good possibility that they would say yes.
Okay, so Antoine, you have touched the teleworking that in your companies. I think that you have assumed a big part of the time do it whenever you want. No, at the end, this is the essence, and you used to have before COVID as well. But now, I would like to see if it is really affecting the way how you are working internally, and if it is affecting some strategic KPIs from your side.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, we ran a survey a few months ago internally at Revolut, and what we saw is that 98% of the people at Revolut said that they adapted well to the full remote working. And we've asked as well the leaders within Revolut, and 90% of them said it did not impact the productivity, you know, which gave us a good idea of where we wanted to go from there. And that's why from there we decided to implement this full remote, and we've converted our offices into what we call Rev Labs. So it's basically, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and so we've changed the offices for Rev Labs, which are more collaboration spaces, you know? So we have Rev Labs everywhere where we have a scalable, mass in a way in terms of employees, and that's how we work. So you work from home, but if you want to go to the office or to Rev Lab, you can go, and then you can participate into collaboration exercises, meet the team, run workshops, and so on. And we implemented as well the fact that 60 days a week you can work from any country you want, you know, so you can move on. I mean, if you want to go to the Canary Islands and spend 2 months there during the winter and so on, feel free to do so, you know. And I think this is having great traction at Revolut. And honestly, from a productivity standpoint, I think as long as the people are finding this working for their private life, it works for Revolut.
And David, do you think the same? Or?
Well, I think it's early to say where things will land, no? But our 3 experiences so far is we're very innovative companies. We are innovating a lot with very short innovation cycles. And we see that that part is not working very well. When people are remote, you don't know who's at the office, you get there and they're missing someone from the teams. So kind of this total freedom of choice for every individual, I think it affects the common the power of bringing things fast to the market. That's definitely one thing we see that we're working with to kind of keep up the speed of the innovation, and we're struggling a little bit with that. Second part is that what we learned is that when you kind of start to be home a lot, you have your normal circle of friends and people that you usually interact with. And when we kind of provoke people to come at the same time, they felt they needed a different context. Because at times we are not looking for this kind of social interactions that are a little bit outside of what you choose, but those parts are a very important part of life. And we start to see that, of course, we cannot decide for other people what they need, but we really see the value of spontaneous interaction and getting to know people. And I think that's suffering a bit from when you have kind of a too installed way of working from home a little bit. No? The third is, in our case, we haven't made any company policies. Our company works in circles. So each area decides what makes them most productive. And then we're trying to find some common ground. I think there's been kind of, the thoughts has been everywhere from forcing people, everybody at home or in between. But I think the end game is going to be something in between. No?
Believe me, I've been in SeQura headquarters and I will be there every day. Amazing. And Duncan, what about you?
I guess Veriff is kind of middle of the road. We're not really fully remote, although I think as soon as the COVID crisis started to take off, about 3 days into it, we just basically sent everybody home, and everybody was working from home for, if they want to work from home, they can. But when we've been surveying our like workforce, it kind of comes back very split. There's people that really want to be in the office and they want to go to work and they want to kind of socialize with other people at work. And then you have other people that are on the other extreme where they just want to be at home most of the time. And this seems like it's roughly a 50-50 split. So what we have done is something similar to what Revolut has done. Like we have basically development offices, you can go there. And so there are options, like if you want to go to the Veriff office here in Barcelona, you can go. And it's up to the team, I guess a bit like what David is saying, it's up to the team to figure out when they want to get together. If they want to get together for quarterly planning, there's a space for you. But we're kind of leaning more towards this leaning into where the world seems to be going in this kind of work, this kind of optional environment of where where you want to work. Do you want to work from home? Is it something where you need to concentrate on this and you want to be by yourself? Or is it that you want to go into the office and you need to collaborate with other people? We're kind of going a bit middle of the road here, trying to make something, we're kind of thinking if we want people to go to the office or people, we want to provide a place that people can go to the office, we're talking about it as like Club Veriff. It needs to be a cool place that people actually want to go if you want people to go there and give them the options for how they best want to work. I mean, we're hiring smart people. They can probably figure it out themselves, right? We should just give them this option. So this is what we're trying to do, and right now we're just trying to figure out what does this new workspace look like? Do we have desks like we used to have? Is it like, if we have 50 employees here in Barcelona, do we need 50 desks? If only 30 people are ever there at one time, do we like? So we're still trying to figure this out, and I think we kind of all are.
That's interesting. I would like to keep the meeting. I had many of questions to do, but I think that it's time. Sorry, I wanted you to do some questions to the guests, but if they don't give me 5 minutes, no? So, sorry. It has been really interesting, and thank you again to join here the interview, let's say this. And if somebody would like to talk with us or whatever, I'm taking your voice, but we can talk with us whenever you want. Thank you.
Yeah, we're friendly.